What is good, YouTube? It's Joey, and today we're coming with the AFC North predictions. Like and subscribe, road to 400. But basically, I'm going to be doing these predictions just a little bit differently. Um, Instead of going game by game and saying why the team is going to win, I'm just going to give you what I think they're going to perform at their ceiling and then their floor. Worst case scenario, we're just going to kind of go through the schedule and do that for the Browns, Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals in this video. So fans don't get as mad as me as they normally would. But anyways, I think the Browns are going to go 15-2, although they could do differently. I think their most challenging games are the Chiefs, the Ravens, of course, in their division, Packers, with Aaron Rodgers, of course. The Cardinals are pretty challenging. The Patriots, I think those are their most challenging games. For the other games, I think they're going to win. So, like teams against the Texans are pretty bad. I think the Browns are going to win that easily because the Texans don't have that good of an O-line. The Browns pass rush, they have Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. Can he resurge? I don't know, but Myles Garrett by himself is really good. They have good inside linebackers now. They got JOK in the draft. They have young guys like Denzel Ward, and they have John Johnson. They signed Troy Hill, so that defense secondary is looking pretty good now. They don't really have much weaknesses there in the offensive side. You already know their offensive line was one of the best last year, and they basically have the same offensive line now. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they're really good running the football. They would run all over the Texans. And as far as their weapons go, Odell Beckham Jr. should be coming back, although their offense was better without OBJ. And then Jarvis Landry, of course, is a great second option. And then against the Lions, I think it's pretty easy there because the Lions defense is pretty bad. I mean, the Buccaneers just literally destroyed them. The Browns, outside of quarterback, I think Tom Brady's a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Similarly to the Buccaneers, Browns have a great O-line. Browns have a better running back room, worse receiver room, but the Browns also have Austin Hooper at tight end. So, bad defenses like the Lions, the Texans, I think they're going to shred. The Vikings, I think they're going to beat. Chargers defense, I don't think can keep up with them. The Browns have a really high-powered offense with Stefanski. They're going to be able to run the ball really well and set up play action really easily. Now, I think they're going to beat the Chiefs in week 1 because I think they do have the better roster. The Chiefs have a more explosive in terms of big play offense. But they're not as well rounded. I think the Browns have a slightly better offensive line. Although Mahomes, with that new line, might be able to put up a lot, but I think they have the edge in quarterback, slightly at head coach. But I think the Browns' defense is much improved now. But in a kind of a worst case scenario, their ceiling would honestly be going 17-0. Their ceiling is to win every single game. I just have them losing to the Patriots and splitting with the Ravens because they're a division rival, and the Ravens have a nice secondary. But they also have Lamar Jackson. Maybe he has a Lamar Jackson game, and it's a division rival. You never know how these things are going to go. And the Ravens are pretty well-rounded themselves. But kind of worst case scenario here for the Browns. I'd say losing to the Chiefs, losing to the Packers. Who knows if Rodgers is going to hold out and opt out. I'd say losing 1 to the Steelers, losing to the Cardinals, I guess. This is worst case scenario. And then losing 1 to the Bengals, and then probably being swept by the Ravens. That's kind of their worst case scenario. Absolute floor is 9-8. A more realistic floor would be like 10-7 to 11-6. That's kind of their floor. Their actual, I think they're gonna go 15-2. I mean, that one against the Chiefs, that game can go either way. But I think the Browns are gonna be I think they're gonna just soar above the league. a lot of people say they're one of the best rosters in the NFL. I think it's going to show. They have the coaching staff. It's all about Baker Mayfield is really their biggest question mark, and he improved last year. So I'm going to say the Browns go 15-2. Their ceiling is around 9-8, 10-7. And their floor is honestly to go their ceiling is to go undefeated. So now for the Ravens side of things, for these Baltimore Ravens, I say them going 11-6. Yeah, I see them going 11-6. I'd say this is their actual. This is not their floor. This is not their ceiling. Most tough games probably are going to be the Chiefs. Is going to be really tough. That one, the Colts are going to be pretty tough. The Broncos, believe it or not, are going to be tough for them. The Dolphins are a tough matchup. The Packers are going to be tough. The Browns, of course. And then the Rams. So those are their toughest matchups. Ones that could go either way. The Bengals, again, these division rivalries, they never know. I just had the Bengals with an upset win. Just these random upsets happen, like last year, the Jets randomly upsetting the Rams. So you got to look out for those. So the Raiders, week 1, Ravens are going to take care of that. I'm going to have a Raiders video. I was way too harsh on them in the AFC West predictions. So I'm going to have a video just dedicated to the Raiders when I get a chance. I don't know, I'm kind of busy. So anyways, the bad defenses like the Raiders. Yannick Ngakoue revenge game, maybe. But the Raiders had a pretty bad defense last year. And a weak secondary. It's just Lamar Jackson game. That's what I see it. Bad defenses like the Lions. The Ravens are just going to run all over them. And they can also throw all over them. The Lions just don't really have, they have a lack of pass rush. And their Jeff Okuda has been disappointing and stuff. And then it's just those games are just easy. But if we were to go their floor of what I actually think their worst case scenario is, that would be losing to the Vikings, I guess, in an upset, because of lack of pass rush. Maybe Kirk Cousins gets going. And then probably splitting with the Steelers, losing to a rested Chicago team, and then losing to the Broncos. I'd say that's probably their floor right there. Their floor is like 7-10. 8-9, around there. That's kind of the worst case scenario for the Ravens. Now their ceiling. So their ceiling is probably beating the Chargers, the Bengals. So 13-4 here, and then probably there. I'd say their ceiling is a 14-3, and their floor is like a 7-10, 8-9, kind of around there. But their actual, what I'm predicting them to go is, I'm actually predicting them to go 11-6. It's just like tough matchups against the Colts. The Ravens, I think they're going to be a run-first team again. Lamar Jackson, they can't get too run-heavy dependent among Lamar, and they have to be more creative because they were running similar plays and teams figured them out. During his MVP season, they didn't figure him out, but now they did figure him out. So they're going to have to get kind of the receivers more involved. They signed Sammy Watkins. They have Rashad Bateman now. Maybe Hollywood or Duvernay or one of those other guys can step up. They still have Mark Andrews. So they have J.K. Dobbins, who's going to probably be in for a breakout season. So that offense has talent. They just need to improve. They have a ways to improve. And then defensively, their pass rush, they're relying on young guys from the draft. It's basically Jason Owe, the rookie they drafted out of college, who is one of the top pass rush prospects. They get Bateman, so I really like their draft class. It's just like, I don't think that pass rush is going to take a step down. They lose Judon, they lose Ngakoue. Calais Campbell is aging inside. Patrick Queen was a really good rookie. Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters are going to be good for them in the secondary. I think they're still going to be a good team. It's just teams against like the Chiefs are going to exploit them because Mahomes is going to have all day to throw. That's a really tough matchup for them. The Browns, again, with their offensive line, I think they can dominate the Ravens up front, possibly. I just have them splitting because these division rivalries. I honestly the Ravens could very well sweep the Bengals. I'm just going to keep it on split because these things always happen. These upsets happen. The Bengals O-line can be taken advantage of, but I mean, against a lesser pass rush of the Ravens, I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, it's going to be tough against that Ravens secondary. But I think if you have some time to throw, that offense just has so many options. Offense is better than defense in today's NFL, the way it's played. It's a pass first league. And then defensively, Bengals, they upset teams all the time. So who knows? I'm just predicting a crazy upset here. Joe Burrow, I don't know, they have really explosive offense. I mean, I could definitely see the Ravens sweeping, but 11-6, 12-5 is what I'm predicting them to go. The Chargers, that's another tough one. I just think Justin Herbert is going to have some time to throw. That secondary could cover the receivers, and Owe could have a chance to get to the quarterback and get some sacks. But I think Justin Herbert outduels Lamar. I mean, Lamar could have some success. It all depends. Is Derwin James going to really come back and be that player he was before? Derwin James is just unreliable at this point, but I think the Chargers could win. But honestly, a game that could go either way there. So it's going to be interesting. Gave you their ceiling, gave you their floor. Next team, Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're going to go 4-13. It's going to be a rough year again for them. They still have not addressed barely at all their offensive line. They added like one guy. That was it. The Bengals really need to get an offensive line for Joe Mixon to run. If they get an offensive line, it really opens up their whole offense because they're able to run it with Joe Mixon, get the play action, throw it to Jamar Chase. I mean, it would just be an insane offense. But without an offensive line, I know Bengals fans are tired of hearing this, but without an offensive line, it's harder to run the ball. There's less holes. That's why Joe Mixon kind of struggled in stretches. And then it's harder for your quarterback doesn't have as much time to throw. And Joe Burrow got injured last year. He's coming back. I think he's going to play well. He showed the ability to play well with a bad O. Yeah, the Bengals get Trey Hendrickson in free agency. And that's going to help their pass rush quite a bit. But losing Shaq Lawson and not really having anyone outside of Trey Hendrickson to really get after the quarterback is going to hurt the Bengals quite a bit. They get Hilton, a cornerback from the Steelers. They have Jesse Bates in the secondary. So they have a pretty decent secondary. So they lose Geno Atkins. He's a free agent. Maybe they bring him back, but I doubt it. So, the Bengals, I don't really know what they're going to do. It's just, again, that offensive line is just really concerning. That pass rush needs more. If you can take away Trey Hendrickson, they're going to struggle getting after the quarterback. It's kind of like what it was last year when Shaq Lawson was really their only good pass rusher. Bro, I'm so mad. I've been saying Shaq Lawson, but it's Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson was really their only guy for their pass rush last year. Now it's going to be the same with Trey Hendrickson. Carl Lawson was getting quite a bit of pressure and sacks, but they're just not good enough up front. That's why I have this the way it is. Their floor is honestly 3-14, kind of right there. Maybe they lose to the Steelers. Maybe they get swept by the Steelers. Or 2-15, 3-14 is really their floor there. Their ceiling, let's just say they win a blowout versus the Vikings here. Let's just say they win that, so that would get them up there. Let's say they beat the Jets. Let's say they beat the Raiders to get up to 7-10. Let's say they sweep the Steelers, and then I guess like 9-8 is their ceiling. Like this is, or beat the Bears 10-7. Just say Joe Burrow just plays insane under pressure and they're able to pull up a lot of upsets and outdo a lot of teams, and that Jamar Chase really works out and the Bengals receivers are able to get open fast. Young guys step up. This is kind of like where we're looking at in terms of their ceiling, maybe even 11-6. but I think that's highly unlikely. Let's fall back to earth here a little bit. So I'm gonna say the Bengals go 4-13 is where I'm saying their record's at. This it's just like if they were able to address that part only, like the Bengals offense would just be so much better, but that's holding them back. Steelers fans are gonna get really mad at me. The Steelers have an aging quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger. They have a head coach in Mike Tomlin, who's not really he gets out coached a lot. That's all I'm gonna say. And then they have an offensive line, and they just lost David Castro. So they have a lot of young, unproven guys that are going to struggle. Najee Harris, they got him. He's a great player, but who's going to block for him? Nobody. Ben Roethlisberger, he's not going to have any time to throw. And you saw that mess in terms of last year. They have Chase Claypool, Juju, who's too busy doing TikTok. That's concerning. And then you have Pat Freiermuth, who's not an offensive lineman. That offense is going to be a mess, even though their skill positions are really good. I like their skill players. It's just, man, they're not going to be able to run the ball. They're not going to be able to get any play action. I'm sorry, Steelers fans. Defense, they still have TJ Watt, who's one of the top disruptors last year. But they do lose Bud Dupree, which is a really huge loss. That's a huge loss because he was creating a lot of opportunities and taking pressure off of a lot of other guys. They still have Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt inside, who are great inside disruptors. But that Bud Dupree loss is going to hurt big time. Devin Bush should be coming back and healthy. They lose Mike Hilton. So that secondary takes a hit. They still have guys like Minka Fitzpatrick. So the defense should be one of the better ones in the league, but I'm saying offense is better than defense nowadays. It's a pass-first league, and Ben is going to struggle behind that O-line. Najee Harris, who's blocking for him. I mean, offensive line might be outside of quarterback so important. Big Ben's declining too. It wasn't looking good down the stretch of the season after that 11-0 start, and they have a tougher schedule. So I see them going disappointing here. I see them going out sad, losing to the Bills in week 1 because the Bills are a better team and they're one of the top teams in the conference. I had them beating the Raiders, but let's go worst case scenario. Raiders take that one, and then they get swept by the Bengals. Honestly, their floor is honestly one win. That's their floor. I don't think they're going to go 1 win. I think they're going to win some games. Let's be a little nice here. Let's see their ceiling. I say sweeping the Bengals because of that defense. They could sweep the Bengals. The Chargers, maybe they can sneak away with one there. Take advantage of some things. This one's really unlikely, but we're going ceiling here. So the Titans, I guess they could beat the Broncos. That front seven is, oh gosh, that's going to be bad for the Steelers. That front seven of the Broncos is going to eat their O-line alive. I guess they could beat the Seahawks, pull an upset because of the defense and causing problems for Russ. But then again, the Seahawks have a defense a pass rush that could get after them. So, but let's just go ceiling. Let's just forget about the mismatches here. I guess it could be possible for them to beat the Vikings. The Ravens, I don't see them sweeping the Ravens even in their best case scenario. So I guess like an 8-9 type of thing. Yeah, this is their ceiling. 8-9 is their ceiling. It's just a really tough schedule plus a bad team. It's just their offensive line. It's going to blow up their offense, and you can't win many games with a terrible offense. I don't care how good your defense is. You need to score to win games, and the only way the defense is going to score is turnovers, picks, and fumbles, and it's going to be a really ugly season for the Steelers. So we're going to go back here and go to their actual, where I had them before, 3-14. Yeah, right here. it's not looking good for the Steelers. That's all I'm gonna say. 3-14, 4-13 is where I see them going. A ceiling of 8-9. I think it's gonna be 9-8. I just think the Steelers are just gonna take a huge hit of regression. Teams figure them out. They can't run the football if it saved their life, and that pass game. They lost David DeCastro. If they face any kind of decent pass rush and decent defensive line, decent front seven, they're going to struggle. So that's where I see the Steelers. So that's my ceiling and floor for the AFC East teams. I think the Browns win the division easily at 15-2. Ravens, they could challenge the Browns. I just think the Browns roster is way too good. So I think the Browns should easily win. And right now, they're the number 1 seed over the Chiefs. I have the Browns 15-2, Chiefs 15-2. But this week 1 game is going to be so crucial. See, if the Chiefs win that, they go 16-1, and the Browns drop to the 3 seed, and the Bills are 14-3 themselves. So I have Browns 15-2. I think the AFC is pretty top heavy with the Bills, Chiefs, and the Browns. They're all pretty top heavy. Explosive offense. It's an offensive league nowadays. So Browns also have an improving defense. I think they have the best roster in the AFC. They don't have the best quarterback coach combo, but I think they have the best offensive line. They have the best running backs. They have good pass catching options. OBJ, Landry, and Hooper. They have arguably the best defensive player. I think Aaron Donald's still a better defensive player, but Myles Garrett is just right up there. He's just really unstoppable. Jadeveon Clowney is in for a bounce back year. I'm not counting on it, but maybe. I just think JOK and this is a him. Denzel Ward's only going to get better. You have John Johnson now, Troy Hill. That Browns team is going to be good. Kevin Stefanski is a good head coach, really good head coach. He's really good with the play calling. So Browns, it would shock me. I would be shocked if they didn't win the division. Ravens are hanging on the 7th seed though, but Lamar, can't count him out. I just think teams are figuring out the Ravens. Their pass rush isn't good enough. Their receivers are still questionable. I think Bateman could be really good. Sammy Watkins has proven to be a solid receiver, but I don't think they're good enough there. Mark Andrews is a really good tight end. He just needs to stay consistent. But I think the Bengals and the Steelers are going to struggle this year. 4-13 for the Bengals, 3-14 for the Steelers. It's just 2 teams with terrible offensive lines. If you need to have a decent offensive line to win you some games. And the Bengals don't have a pass rush either. Not much of a pass rush. They don't really have the best run defense either. And their secondary can be taken advantage of. They have really good skill players and a great quarterback. It's just, I don't trust the coaching staff that much, and I don't trust the offensive line to pass rush that much. And then the Steelers, I just don't like Mike Tomlin as their head coach. I think it's time for the Steelers to move on from Big Ben, move on from Mike Tomlin, and start fresh. They need to move on from that offensive line. Juju is a good receiver. He's just got to figure it out with I understand using TikTok to try to get a huge following and kind of have a backup plan to football because you could get a really bad injury. I understand that, but you're getting paid millions of dollars, so I mean you gotta do your job. They just have a really rough schedule. Playing teams like the Chiefs, Browns, Ravens again, Seahawks, the Steelers are going to be pretty bad. Packers, the Steelers are in for a rough one. So we went through ceilings and floors for each team. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. I'm done with the AFC now. 1 seed is Browns, 2 seed is Chiefs, 3 seed is Bills, 4 is the Titans. And then wild cards, you got the 5 seed with the Patriots. Really good 5 seed. It's just Cam Newton is their big question mark. But Mac Jones might come in and start some games. But Bill Belichick, that roster's great. And you have the Chargers at 6 seed, and then Ravens at 7. AFC is pretty top heavy. Broncos missed the playoffs at 11-6. And then the bottom, I'm going to make a Raiders video, but all we got left to do is the NFC East, and then we'll move on to playoff predictions. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.